Hey, how's it going, everyone? Just backing on with another live stream. Um, just wanted to, go over a few points based on the hangout that I had yesterday. It was good. The entire thing. It was quite long, and I took it down just because we had some kind of controversial language in there that I wasn't sure how it would get received. But I just wanted to go over, just some of my thoughts, I guess, related to the discrepancies, in the Bible. And so I wasn't familiar and aware of that one that, Mike brought out with, the genealogy being different in two different of the gospel accounts. And then I think some of the other ones I was kind of familiar with years and years ago, in my days, as like a 501c3 Christian. But, that one was unique. And then I looked, online and just, people's ideas on it and stuff like that. So, it's like it doesn't surprise me, at this point, certainly for people who understand my vantage point that God is behind the deception, and so He's going to use every single possibility way to try and deceive people, and then that's strange for a lot of people to wrap their head around. Like, why would God do that? Like, why would He use right hand, for example, in Revelation 13, when it's not a literal hand, and then in that instance, for example, why would He allow two different genealogies? And I'm assuming that, if the Bible ends up being true in the New Testament and Revelation and everything, then there's a logic behind it. Like, it would be like a nickname, or there would be just a different, there would be a particular reason and way that God would explain that, that how it is true. And then even if it's not literal, and all that kind of stuff, but there's a logic behind it, an explanation. And so there are verses in the Bible that clearly are there to deceive people, and to get them to question the Bible and then to dismiss it, and then a lot of the language just in general, how it uses symbolic language, like of a beast and, a dragon and all that kind of stuff, like, horses and stuff, horses in the sky. People are going to be like, what is that? That's nonsense. But so, it doesn't surprise me, and I would say this is kind of the spirit of this hangout, I guess. I'm not, I wouldn't be heartbroken if it's not true, Revelation or the New Testament or the Old Testament or whatever. Like, it's the way it is, this is our life that we have. And then, a lot of us were drawn to truth, and then we understand our physical reality, and then we want an explanation for it, and then we started looking around for possible answers. And then one major option is the Bible. And so I don't regret it. And, it wouldn't change any decision that, I've made in the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, because, again, just to reiterate the narrative, just for me personally, just so people understand the vantage point with which I'm teaching, because that's very, very important, because it's the foundation of why I read the Bible in the first place. Like, I picked it up again. Okay. And so I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people have this kind of story, but just to reiterate the narrative that I described yesterday, talking with Mike, is that around the time when I was working for a company called Bed Bath & Beyond, I was in their corporate office in Union, New Jersey, and I was a senior financial analyst. And then I left Amazon to join Bed Bath & Beyond. And so they recruited me because they were like, hey, there's our competitor. Maybe we can benefit from him being here. And I was essentially being squeezed out at Amazon because I was complaining about my boss to my boss's boss. And so I sent an email to my boss's boss in Seattle, complaining about my boss, who was giving me a hard time and others, but he was just doing what he was supposed to do, because that was the corporate song and dance, basically. And so they squeezed me out, because, like, once you go to your boss's boss and basically try and, like, rat him out, then they're like, this person can't be here. And so that was what we call now, I know, as a career limiting move. And so then that boss's boss in Seattle came to New Jersey, which is where I was working, And then he basically was like, well, I got to hear what he's going to say. And it was like nothing major, like that's unusual for corporate world. And so shortly after that, they put me on a performance improvement plan, which is their way of basically saying like, you're about to get fired. And so, because again, I ratted out my boss's boss. And so again, I was just ignorant. Like, I'm still to some extent, I mean, I know the corporate world very, very well, how it works now, extremely well. And I've documented those experiences on my channel. But, I'm just the type where I'm like, hey, if I have a problem, like I go to like the top. Okay. And so that's what I did, and that's the same thing that I'm doing now spiritually. And so I was put on this thing called a performance improvement plan, right? Which is essentially their way of saying you have a month, I think, or 2 weeks or a month or so, get your act together, get in line and shut up, or go look for another job. Okay. And so then I was like, then I quote, look for another job. And then I landed a job at Bed Bath & Beyond. And so up to this point, I was just like, I just have bad luck. That's what I was thinking. I just have some bad luck with bosses. And then, the prior experience I had was with Schlumberger in San Antonio, which was similar, where, I was like arguing and debating against my boss, quite a bit. And so, then I went to Amazon, and then I was like, okay, same thing. And then I went to Bed Bath & Beyond. It was the same thing, because I got hired into a situation where my boss was about to be, was going to be let go, relatively soon, because they're spending too much money on their IT infrastructure. And so they needed me to come in there and try and just work with him and make a budget that's reasonable and, all that kind of stuff. And so my boss was about to be fired. And I found out that after, he was fired. But it was basically like a tumultuous situation. And then, then he would like not tell me certain things. He wasn't going to tell other people certain things. I wasn't able to do my job, and then I wouldn't like have anything to do. So I would like go home early, like sometimes 4:30 and 5 o'clock. And then he'd ask like, hey, why are you leaving early? And I'm like, well, I had nothing to do. And he's like, well, you're not supposed to leave until a particular time, like 5:30. And in my mind, I'm like, well, I don't have anything to do. So like, I just went home. So that's my attitude, that's just the way I am. I can't change who I am. And so not surprising, this story ends the same way. I got put on what's called a performance improvement plan. And then that's their way of, again, kind of saying that, you're not welcome here, kind of thing. So it's the same story. And so, that's what, actually, sorry, at Bed Bath & Beyond, I didn't get on a performance improvement plan. Sorry. But, it was kind of the same thing. Like HR realized that we were, I got put on performance in the next company that I work for. And so, it kind of carries along with me. So, it's hard to remember how many I've been on, but I've been on 2. So anyway, HR was seeing that like there was tension, with me and him. So, and then his boss, who was the CFO, she would come to me and ask me for like numbers and information, because she wasn't getting anything from him, because again, he was trying to like protect his budget. He didn't want to lay people off, and he was overspending, to keep his headcount up, which gives them a sense of like job security. So she would come to me. And so anytime you interact with your boss's boss in the corporate world, you're pretty much toast, because again, the same experience that happened at Amazon was happening again at Bed Bath & Beyond. So I was pretty much toast. And then, so me and my boss were like arguing, and like, if I read some of those emails, like I would probably be pretty nasty, kind of the way I am, honestly, with people that come by here. I would like make fun of them, stuff like that. So it's not, you don't want to do that. So, that's the story. Okay. So I'm sitting at Bed Bath & Beyond. So now I've already worked for a few companies, and then I've been leaving after like 6 months to a year, back to back to back. So I worked at Schlumberger for a year. I got kicked out. Then I worked at Amazon, got kicked out. Then I worked at, Bed Bath & Beyond, and then I got kicked out. And so now I'm in a tough situation, because I have string of companies that I've worked for only about a year. And so in my mind, at this time, I'm still like kind of, bad luck, and that kind of thing. So I didn't quite tell the story correctly yesterday. So I want to correct that, because I forgot about a company that I work for in New York. So, because they're all just these little like stints. So I forgot about that piece. But this was the piece that I want to add in New York. So I'm like, all right, like, I'm able to collect unemployment, and I had to fight for that, because, you have to prove that you were let go, not that you quit. Okay. So anyway, I had to fight for that. So I had like a little bit of like a vacation now. And so I'm like, whatever, I don't want to live in the Northeast and not try New York City out. So I moved to the city. And then so, I have like, a few months just to kind of like, live off unemployment a little bit. And then so I moved to East Harlem. And so, that was an interesting experience, living in that part of New York, and so I was living in the city, and, it was very modest, the rent was expensive. Even in East Harlem, it was like $1,600. So, I was keeping kind of a low profile, but, I was just, living in the city. I wasn't really doing much, honestly. I wasn't really socializing or anything, but, at this time, I'm obviously very like, anti-corporate world, because now I'm viewing that the corporate world just kind of kicking me out, hey, come and help us. And then the thing's stupid. And then they kick me out. I lived on 106 and I can't remember the cross street, but it was on 106. I might be able to find my old address. Let's see. 106th and 2nd. So I was living at 106th and 2nd. And so that's just whatever, giving New York a try. Okay. And then didn't really like look for jobs or anything. I don't know what my plan was really at that point. I was just kind of like I was searching for, I think, part-time work. I remember going to some interviews at like Morgan Stanley, and just to be like a data cruncher, just like some hourly job, just because like the corporate world was stupid. So, but I got an email from a recruiter, and I got an interview at a company in Irvington, New York, upstate New York. So then I'm like, well, whatever, I just go to the interview, not thinking much of it. Then I realized later that they're looking for like basically kind of like a renegade like me. And so they want somebody to come in because they're planning to do another restructuring and getting rid of people. And so they bring me in because they're like, well, this guy's a loose cannon. He's going to come in and mix things up. And I definitely did that. So they got what they asked for. So I came and, joined this logistics company in Irvington, New York. So I'm taking the rail, up to, like a little bit outside of the city. So, I finally felt like I was like a productive member to society. Okay. So I got a job now. And then, I was kind of getting bored basically, and then that was around the time where even at Bed Bath & Beyond, I started watching Alex Jones and stuff like that. And then when I was living in East Harlem, I started watching the Hebrews. So I graduated. I quote unquote graduated. I moved on from Alex Jones and stuff like that, and that type of conspiracy theory. And then now I'm in New York, and then I get exposed to the Hebrew Israelites because I was watching stuff related to like Louis Farrakhan, and then in my YouTube feed, I think Russian vids came up. So I was starting to get into Russian vids and the flat Earth. And then I was watching Zabak. I would even go to their camp sometimes, and stuff like that. So I was like intrigued, and I had this downtime in my life where I was like, I had a lot of time, to watch videos and stuff. Cause like, again, I was living off unemployment. So, I wasn't really exploring New York City very much. So, I watched a lot of videos, and then I become more and more isolated and alienated from my family. And so, but I would not take that time back for anything. It was a tremendous learning experience. And so, and a lot of that's facilitated by having a lot of time, on my hands. So I did have a little bit of like a health issue that I like dealt with, and like, it wasn't major, but, it's, I wasn't eating very healthy, like I was very much like, I wouldn't say depressed. I was just like bored, I guess, but like, I wasn't eating well, I wasn't taking care of my body and stuff. So, anyway, it's not to get pity, but this is just sort of explain, my full story. Which explains the situation that I'm in, and I think a lot of people are in. But anyway, so I got an email, do you want to interview for this company, whatever. I do the interviews, and, I got a job now. And so, so I was living in East Harlem around 2015 or so, 2015, 2016 timeframe. And so, it was not a full year. But, then I worked for this company in Irvington, and because I'm lazy, I was like, I don't want to walk to, I took a bus to like the 125th station, and then I had to take the rail to Irvington. So I was like, let me move closer to like where I can catch the rail. So I moved closer to Grand Central Station. So I eventually moved to 43rd Street, literally right beside Grand Central Station. So, but I was in East Harlem for maybe like, I don't know, close to a year. So anyway, then I go to this company. Okay. So I'm like hopeful. Hey, maybe this is like a company that I can actually fit in and work for. I go in, they tell me to like, update this Excel file. Cause again, I was a CPA, like I'm an accountant, by training. And so, but I'm an engineer. So, I would say I'm a bit like overqualified for a lot of accounting jobs. That's not to be arrogant, but like a lot of the stuff is very easy for me. So they give me this file. So like, it's just like all like, jumbled and not very organized and stuff that I'm supposed to update every day and then send out to the field. And then, so within the first like few months of the job, like I fixed the file and I make it so that I can update the whole thing in like a couple of minutes. And then the funny thing is I actually like, they gave me like this little remote box where I can like connect to Wi-Fi, through cellular, on the way to work. And so, I had this little device, kind of like a hotspot, basically like your phone, but like, a box. And so on my like 45-minute train ride, I would do pretty much everything that I need to do the whole day. And so like I would update the file, get it all ready. And then, I would send it out. Before I even got to work, sometimes people were like, how'd you even get that done? Like you're not even in the office yet. And so like I would just do all these things really quickly and then I didn't have anything to do. So I would go to work and I would be bored. And so like, I would take a bit longer lunches. Like, that's when I started buying like cryptos a little bit more online, and I was like bored. So I was just like researching different things. So I just sat there all day, and then my boss sat beside me. So I couldn't really like, do anything, and like hide or go away or like, go, go do something fun or something like that. So I was kind of stuck. And then he got resentful that I was fixing things. He's like, oh my God, like this guy came here and like, that used to be like what somebody would do for like a couple hours. Now he's already finished it and stuff. So I was basically making him look bad because like people were like, well, why didn't you do that? That's what they were kind of asking themselves, this whole time. And so he didn't like me, needless to say. And this is actually a funny thing. Like there was one day that I didn't realize like why he was so happy. Like he got an email and then he was like cheering, like, yes. And I was like, what do you like? Why is this guy so happy? And I realized later, like that was the day that he found out that they were going to put me on a performance improvement plan, which is their way of, again, this is the second time that I've been on one. They were like, it's time for this guy to go. So, he was excited. And then I realized that was like, if I did the math, cause I got the meeting invite from HR after that. So they were like, okay, then I realized, okay, that's why he was so happy that day. So it's not even necessarily anything personal to him. It's like, that's just the way the corporate world is, and then if you go in there and like do your work and then you have to sit there all day. And then like, that's boring to me, like for, 7 hours or whatever that I don't need to be there. So, then in my mind, after I was put on my second performance improvement plan for doing good work, quote unquote, good work, they were like, you got to go. And so in my mind, I'm like, well, I don't think at this point, I realize this is not me anymore. This is not anything. Oh, I have a bad boss or these are necessarily like evil people. It's like, that's the way the corporate world is. Okay. You have to go in there and just sort of like, acquiesce and just kind of like blend in and be stupid and, do things slowly and create job security and all that. And basically be an actor. That's why I call people actors on this platform as well. So they're all actors. Okay. And so they're not like really trying to be creative and, collaborate and like, improve things. And, if you reward you, if you like, I should have been, if I made that file that somebody else did in like 2 or 3 hours, like I should be able to go home, And so like, like I wasn't rewarded for that. In fact, they fired me. And so in my mind, I'm like, wait a minute, I just created a file that everybody, appreciates. And then I actually made like dashboards, using like, some like, business intelligence software and like, like they could go and get that information online and stuff like that. So like I was like adding value, and then I was bored, cause I finished all those things that the other person would normally do. And then they were like, okay, well, this guy's, a troublemaker basically, like, and kind of thing. So no good deed goes unpunished kind of thing. So in my mind at that time when I was bitter, I was, because now I'm realizing it's not me, because like I didn't do anything. I wasn't harming anybody or like, making fun of people, or I was trying to help people and collaborate. And then other people knew that. And even the controller, this is why I think this is kind of cool about my corporate experience. He was nice. The controller and the CFO realized that I was squeezed out by my boss and his boss. So, and then he was like, the CFO asked the controller to like, reach out to me after I left. Because when I left, I didn't tell anybody. I just put my stuff on the table and then I took the train home. So on bad terms. And then so he was like, reach out to him, and then if he needs a reference, like help him and stuff. So like that I appreciate, like they understood that like I was squeezed out and stuff. And then we actually went to golf together in Connecticut before I moved out of New York. So, and then he was a reference for me with the next job that I took, which is the last job. And that's the final part of the story. Okay. But at that time I was bitter, I was bitter at just the world. And why am I here? Like wasting time sitting here just like a zombie. And like people are hiring me and firing me because like I'm working and like trying to help and do a good job. So in my mind at that time, this will sound dark, but it's probably not dark to a lot of people. But I kind of knew my life was not going to be, I'm not going to live till I'm 70 or 80. And I've actually always felt that since I was young anyway. I've always sort of sensed that when people would talk about, I wish I have grandkids and all that kind of stuff. I never thought that way. And I don't know what it is. Like, I just never imagined myself being a parent or a grandparent or anything like that. I always knew that I would leave this earth at a relatively young age. And so I was I was like, yeah, that's, I realized that, and I wasn't necessarily thinking those kind of thoughts, but in my mind, like I was realizing like, it's not going to work. I'm not going to be able to work for these kind of corporations. I tried bigger ones, smaller ones, medium-sized ones, and all that kind of stuff. So in my mind, I was like basically planning, my last days. And so, I literally, went to my parents' place in New Jersey. I told them like, I'm going to move to Houston because I just want to play golf and, I just want to be, in nice weather. At least if I'm like stuck at home, collecting unemployment, at least I can go play golf, and then be around people that I'm familiar with here in Houston. So I called up one of my close friends. I was like, yeah, I'm going to move back soon. And then, he was in a different stage in life, with a family and stuff, but I was like, I'm moving to Houston. Okay. And then I had to again argue with, the unemployment services. So I've collected unemployment in New Jersey. I'm like done a trifecta. This is the funny part of it. So, cause like, I'm pretty like, persistent. So I collected unemployment in New Jersey when Bed Bath & Beyond kicked me out. Then now I'm collecting unemployment in New York when they kicked me out of that job in Irvington. And so I've gotten two, like at this point, mini vacations. Okay. For 6 months, which I needed that time to like get out of my apartment in New York. And then thankfully, the new lease that I signed in on 43rd Street, which is in Midtown Manhattan, they allowed me to break my lease at any time as long as I gave them 2 months notice. They did not have to do that. And I don't even know why they have that stipulation. I think the people that own that building are just rich. And, the guy, I think it might be someone in their family, their son he's like, yeah, we have this provision. And I was like, okay, great. So, I did my 2 months in New York and then wrapped up, basically like gave everything away and then started fresh here. So I moved to Houston now. In my mind, I'm like, these are my last days. Okay. Like people are like, yeah, we're in the end times. Yeah. I was in my last days. Okay. When I moved here in 2017. Okay. So I'm in Houston now. I'm just in my mind, I'm like, it's not a good fit. Like I couldn't in my mind imagine like what corporate job would work for me, for somebody with my personality. So people think, why are you always mean like that? I want you to know I'm like that in real life too. Okay. If people are like stupid, then I'm like, I don't put up with it. I'm like, I won't say that in the way that I say it here, but I have the same mindset. If it's not fair, then I complain, and then I'm like, well, that's stupid. Okay. And I don't want to be stupid. And then, so that kind of thing. So, don't think that this is like a show. This is like the way that I am. And that's why I don't hang around anybody. So, there's a cost for that, which I'm comfortable with. But so anyway, now I'm Houston, right? Just golfing every day. Literally I joined a golf course here, Wildcat. And, I'm collecting unemployment. So I have about 6 months where I'm, pretty covered. And then I didn't really spend too much in New York. I didn't have a car and stuff. So, I had a decent saving. So And I had a little bit of 401k and stuff. So I was like, I didn't have a car at the beginning. So I would take Uber and Lyft. You didn't have to wear at that point because that didn't happen yet. So, I was in the clear. Then I started posting videos to YouTube. If you notice, that's about the time when I first started posting videos to my YouTube channel was 2017, like spiritual things, flat earth. I started going on more debate shows because again, I had time. And then, I was just doing more like religious stuff, spiritual stuff. And so the point of this story is that it wasn't like I had some like overwhelming experience, with God and all that kind of stuff. Like I was bored. Okay. That's what I want people to understand. So I'll stay on Hangouts as long as it's interesting. And then maybe I'll learn something or challenge my views or something. But once it gets boring, then, I'll cut the mic. Okay. And so I felt like the discussion yesterday was very, very academic and interesting with Mike. But then when he started saying Job 9:24 is not happening right now, then I realized that this person is just an actor. Okay. I already knew that. Okay. But I'm just saying then in all that interesting back and forth, I was like, oh man, I was like, the record stopped and I was like, okay, then the boring music started playing in the background. I was like, okay, this is boring now. And so let's cut this. So I do genuinely always like to seek like learning experiences and people to challenge my views, and that's a very academic thing. That's a very scientific thing to do, because real scientists, they have findings and then they go and they present it and then they want people to critique it. Hey, why didn't you consider this and all that? And then that's the way it should work. Okay. And I enjoy that. And so it was like that up until the point at the end when he started saying, that's not a sin to do that. And so then I was like, I'm not dealing with like a real person again. So that's the deal. Okay. So that's the foundation of my life in the last many, many years. It's not a new thing. It's not something that, this guy's so depressed and this and that. Like I'm bored. Okay. And if you're not bored and you enjoy it here, whatever, you can just come by here and laugh, or just maybe learn something in my boredom. But if you're not bored here, at least a little bit, or at least, to some extent to the depth that I am, this channel will never make sense, in terms of the intensity with which that I teach. And so that's the foundation. Before the Bible is even opened or the flat earth, all these things were happening in the background, in my life prior to the flat earth, prior to, Alex Jones, Russian vids, the Hebrews and all that. I was just simply going to a job, and I was bored. Okay. I was not intellectually stimulated. And when I was doing things that were stimulating, people were firing me. Okay. Saying like, bye. Okay. Like you want to like do things and optimize things and, make it more efficient. Well, you can go now. Okay. Get the hell out of here. So I was like in my mind, like, what the heck? Like, what was I hired for kind of thing, And so then a lot of us, this is not new. So I think a lot of us know this now for, obviously because of the flat earth and other things, but so that's the foundation, of my issues with this world. Okay. And so all the things that I've learned on top of that, the flat earth, this is hell, Mystery Babylon, the mark of the beast, Job 9:24, the two witnesses, everything is further reaffirming to me with the Bible narrative that you should be bored, and you should in fact realize that this place is evil. So I'm like, wow, okay, that's interesting. Okay. So the Bible was an outlet for an already permanent, disposition. Okay. Permanent. There's no undoing it. It's, you just got stuck with bad companies. No, it's the same thing. Okay. And I don't even accuse the people in the companies of being evil. It's just, they have to keep their job. And so they have to go along with the narrative. Okay. And so I don't have any bitterness towards those people. I did at that time, probably for sure. If I read some of my emails, which I saved some, I'm sure if I read them, I would cringe, but I was nasty. And so, but now with the hindsight, they're just people who are trying to like feed their family, or like pay for the rent or whatever. So, now I have the understanding, looking in the rear view mirror. And so my issue with this world is that it's boring. Okay. And so when there's somebody, even Mike is masquerading around as somebody who's righteous when we know that he's not, he's just a complete clown and an actor. But that discussion about the law and keeping it strictly, that was a moment of like excitement. I was like, wow, that's great. Like, oh man, we're coming, even though I know he's not righteous, but that conversation discussing righteousness, okay, through the law, that's an exciting thing. I'm like, wow, that makes us alive, people that we believe that we're God's children. So, but then at the end, when he went through all that spiel, like 9 hours or whatever of like the law this and keep the law and all that, why don't you keep the law? You didn't, why'd you shave your beard and all that kind of stuff? Then he's like, Job 9:24 is not happening right now. And then I was like, oh my God, like this is awful. And so I just felt dirty at that point. But ultimately, like, these discussions are intellectually stimulating, talking with other like-minded people, like, Bible defenders in the chat, and then End Times Teacher, and the people that you can access, and then talk to them if you want to. And End Times Teacher makes himself available, for conversations and stuff. That's why, him and I do that. And so that's intellectually stimulating. And so reading the Bible, and learning about, debating in the flat earth debates, because I used to do those a lot back in the day, quite a bit, on non sequitur. And I was like, a lone soldier, I was doing that on my own, non sequitur. I would watch all the Oakley's debates. And then, I would go on ranties, and like we would have, and then Jose has a channel, Jose JG. And so I would do those because like I was just golfing. And so if the weather wasn't good, I was pretty much on Hangouts, trying to debate, the shape of the earth. So, and then it was good because I started from scratch. I was like, well, let me prove it to myself what it is. And so that's why people don't come by here and debate that, because people like me, we've had 3, 4, 5 years of debating and going through all the arguments. We've looked at the mathematics, we've looked at the papers, and I've watched almost all of Oakley's Hangouts, the flat earth debate and stuff. So you can't, okay. You cannot bring the ball earth to this channel, to me anymore. So that was a stimulating time, it wasn't getting paid for it. It wasn't a job or whatever, but it was like intellectually stimulating. And then, I started getting into the Hebrew Israelites. Okay. And so then I would go to their street preaching, because it's literally like just a few blocks away from where I live right now. And I would listen to them, and then they had a beef with one of their leaders, and he split from the other ones. And I would go to both of them because he would preach on a different day than the other one. So I would like listen to them, live. I wouldn't argue. I would go there and just listen, and then they don't, little did they know that I was going to turn my back on them. But, I was just listening, and I was reading the Bible, and then studying it and then learning it. And then, then I would do those like weekly live streams with Mies Kang, and Manny would jump on once in a while. So, I was just kind of like, quote unquote, using the Bible, okay, as a form of intellectual stimulation, okay, because I wanted to better understand its position on the flat earth, which we know that is clear, and potentially why is there so much evil, and why is this place so boring? That's what I was really in my mind. That's what I was wondering. Why is this place so boring? And like, why am I getting penalized for trying to be intelligent? Okay. And like the same with the ball earth debates, like, why are we getting made fun of when we're asking questions, sincere questions? And so, then I started, well, I was like, oh, that's made me go deeper into the Bible, because then the Hebrews would bring out, God is behind good and evil. We're in the last days, America's Mystery Babylon. And then I was like, oh, okay. Wow. Okay. And so things started, forming, and then they encouraged everybody to read the Old Testament as well, which is great, which is what Mike was reading, which he doesn't understand, but he was reading it yesterday, and the Apocrypha. And so, then I started, getting into all those books and stuff. And so that's the deal. And so in my mind, when I moved to Houston, I sort of saw my life sort of wrapping up, roughly. It wasn't going to be 10 or 15 or 20 years. It's impossible unless some magic money machine started raining down money into my apartment, except if that were to happen. But, I just kind of assuming, and I made some wise investments. So I was able to like kind of do this, and I didn't have a family or kids to take care of. So, I was able to kind of, do this, because if I had a family and stuff, it would be harder. But so, because I told people I got into Bitcoin around that time because I was bored, and I didn't make millions off of it, but I made enough to like kind of, let me not work. And then so this is another thing that is kind of related to like what I'm dealing with now, and I think a lot of people are, is like, so I'm playing golf a lot, needless to say, because I have nothing else to do, and then reading the Bible. And so a couple of nights in a row, I was like sleeping weird. And I think I was sleeping with like my head forward. And then I had a bulging disc in my neck. And this is the second time it happened. The first time it happened was because I wasn't, eating well and sleeping well when I was living in East Harlem. And so, it wasn't even like, it was like I wasn't sleeping in the proper position. And then if you don't like exercise and, stretch and like, sit in different positions, if I'm always golfing or like, I'm using my back a lot, it puts a lot of pressure on your back. And so it's the second time I had a bulging disc in my neck. And so it wasn't like insanely painful, but like it was, for anybody who's had spinal issues, like it was annoying. Okay. Because you can always feel like your numb arms and stuff because even when you're sleeping or trying to sleep. And so I couldn't sleep. And so like, because like I could always feel this like numbness. And so it was annoying, for a couple months. And so I was getting a little bit not worried, but like I was like, well, what if something more serious happens or this doesn't get better and I don't have like medical coverage or very good medical coverage? So then I was like, in my mind, I was like, oh man, like, and then I was also thinking it would be nice to have a car because like I was like taking Uber and Lyft, every day. And like, I was using the light rail and stuff like that whenever I could to save money. And thankfully, one of my golfing friends, after we would play golf, we would eat lunch at a restaurant and then he would drive me to like the light rail. So I would, I had a ride home, and then the light rail is only like $1. So like I saved money that way. So, I was like, it was okay not having a car, but like I was like, it would be nice, especially in a city like Houston. You need a car to be able to do things and stuff. So I was like, I think I need a job now. And I think in my mind too, I was like, it'd be nice to actually date, just so I'm not like a degenerate, sitting and golfing and reading the Bible. And I'm not saying that that's wrong to do those things, of course, but I was like, let me reintegrate with society, give it another try kind of thing. So all those things, because I was in my mind, I was a bit sort of stubborn and I was like, I'm not going to work anymore. No, hell no. That's in my mind, like Bishop Bullwinkle would say, hell to the no. But, life kind of like, time went by and I was like, yeah, okay, like maybe let me give it one more chance. So I got another email again from a recruiter. Are you interested in this job? Okay. And I was like, looked at it, small company, in Houston, and it was north of the city. So it was really far away. So I definitely needed a car. And so, I interviewed and then I ended up getting the job. Okay. And so my title was senior financial modeler for a drilling company in Houston, in Conroe. So, I'm like, I have a job now. Okay. And then I took my offer letter and then I went to the Benz dealership because I'm like, if I'm going to be a slave and a zombie, I'm going to drive a nice car. Okay. So I bought a little treat for myself with some of my Bitcoin savings. And then I bought a Benz. Okay. And so like, I felt like a bit like a normal person at this point. Cause like I have a job. Okay. Haven't really started the job yet, but I was like, I have a job and I have a car now. And then most importantly for me at that time was like, I had health insurance coverage. And so in case something, happened worse to my neck or my back or anything really. And so, then I'm back and then, I do the corporate thing. And then, this job wasn't actually, again, really like bad people. I would say it was one of my more favorite jobs, but it was boring. Again, like I just go there. No one really has anything for me to do. No, it was like silver, it was like man, I missed that car. I'll be totally honest. Like I love that car, dude. It had the little knob, to like change the music. It had the, LCD display. It was like the luxury version in 2015. So it had the 360 driver assist. So if anybody came near my car, it would beep. So I felt safe. I felt like I could take that car to the moon, but, that kind of thing. But anyway, sorry. Yeah, this job, right? It was kind of boring. And it was the same thing, like I go there. No one really gives you anything to do. There's no structure. And then I found out like in the first like month or so, they gave me a fairly tough project assignment. Not really tough, but it's something that I didn't do a lot in the past. But they were like, yeah, you need to make this model and then go present it to our CFO and our owner. And I was like, oh shit. And so, I did the due diligence. There was a couple like sleepless nights, but I got it and then I did it. And then they were like, it was good. I could tell they were like very, very impressed. And so even my boss on the way back, he texted me, he's like, that was an excellent job. And so basically what I realized is that was my interview from the owner. And if he didn't like me, then he was going to, make my life difficult. So he basically kind of befriended me after that, like month or so. So I was kind of on good terms because he's like, oh, that's sure. That's a smart guy kind of thing. So in a really, really small family owned company like this, there's still politics, but it's not as much. So a lot of other people hate this company, but from my vantage point, it was one of my better roles. And so they treated me well. Okay. The only issue was, again, that it was boring because I would go there. There are people, I would even like play tennis with my boss and stuff like that. Like he was like very laid back, and stuff. So it's not that it was like evil or anything, but like it was boring, because like I would go there and there'd be nothing to do. And then I would watch golf and he would come by my desk. We had these like dual monitors and like one of the screens I'll be watching golf. And then he would laugh, like he wouldn't care. And sometimes in the afternoon, I would go to the driving range and stuff because there was one close by the office. And whenever he would leave, sometimes he would leave early. I would just leave like right after he left. So I was just like, I was doing nothing, and I felt guilty because like I'm getting paid to like do nothing basically. So I did a little bit of work, here and there when people ask me to, but to fill 8 hours a day is impossible for me in a corporate setting, And if I am doing 8 hours of work, I'm wondering why. Like this is so inefficient. If I have to work 8 hours every day, it's like something's got to be inefficient, for the kind of things that I'm doing, which is like Excel files and accounting and stuff like that. Like it's basic stuff. Like it's like simple stuff. Like I didn't use any of my degrees. Okay. I have an undergrad in electrical engineering. I have a master's in electrical engineering. I have a master's in accounting, and I'm a CPA at that time. I was like, I didn't need to do any of that to do this kind of stuff. Like I could have learned my jobs in like a few months, of like a trade school or something like that. I'm not trying to make fun of people who go to trade schools. I'm saying all the other stuff's a ripoff. That's what I'm trying to tell you. So I was like, what the hell why did I go to all that schooling? Like, what the hell is the point of that? Because I can do these jobs like with like a little bit more than a high school education. So anyway, now in my mind, this is the grand finale. Okay. I was like, this is it, as ETT would say, rest in peace, Rooney McNutt. I was like, this is it. This is definitely it, because I gave it one last try, and then the nice thing about this company is they knew that I was bored, and that's why that I left. And then they reached out to me. The owner actually emailed me personally, and he was like, do you want to still work? Because he knew my resume had a bunch of like 1 year positions, and he knew that that's not going to look good, if I ever want to work again. So he actually emailed me, personally to my Gmail account. And he got that email from somebody else that works there. So I respect him for that. He didn't have to do that. He's just like, whatever. Like this guy's rich. This guy has an elevator in his house. Okay. That's how much money he has. So he didn't have to email me and like look out for me, but he offered to give me an hourly role just to kind of like keep my employment going and, give me like, projects to do, just whatever, random stuff. And actually the stuff that he asked me to do was actually interesting. So I created some financial models for him, and then, would still, do some travel to see him and others in, where the company was headquartered in Louisiana. So, I had a little bit more work history because of him reaching out. But in my mind, I was like, this is it, and stuff like that. And so I actually remember getting the email from them because they were like, where'd you go and stuff like that. And because like, they're asking me to do hourly work, but then they weren't really like, I wasn't really on the clock. And then they were just kind of checking in with me. And I was like standing on the streets out here in Houston with a sign, about the flat earth. And then I got this email, essentially saying, I'm about to be like laid off. But I basically asked to be laid off because they're like, where are you? And I'm like, I'm just waiting for you guys to lay me off so I can collect unemployment for the third time. I actually literally told them that. And so, but I just remember getting that email, which was funny. I was like standing over here, like a few blocks away, quote unquote, pushing the flat earth. I was doing an experiment. I just wanted to see how people would react when they drove by with a flat earther on the side of the road, and they were all like, yeah, it's stupid. Like, how can you believe that? And I would just tell them like, do you believe the earth moves? And then they wouldn't say anything, people who were catcalling me from their car. But anyway, so in my mind, I was like, that's it. That's enough of that. I tried it, gave it a try, we leave on good terms, and then I'm just like, my life is wrapping up, and I wasn't bitter about it. I was just like, whatever, man, it's just what it is. It's like, I can't create a company that will utilize my resources to like in a way that I'm comfortable with, I can't do that. And so I was fine with it, and I wasn't, and again, I actually had like a nicer taste in my mouth because the owner of this company actually reached out to me personally and said, hey, we'll keep you on. And so I officially stopped working at the end of 2019. And, it's been like that ever since. So 2020, 21, and then whatever now, this little bit. So thankfully I've been lucky where I don't have anybody else to take care of. So I was able to keep myself, above water during that time. And then thankfully I finagled a third unemployment insurance. Okay. So like I was 3 for 3. And so I got unemployment insurance from New Jersey with Bed Bath & Beyond in Union, New Jersey, New York, in Irvington, New York, and then the third time here in Houston, in Texas. So I was like, that's cool, man. So in my mind, people are like, hey, you're so morbid. You're thinking about dying and stuff. I've been thinking about dying for a long time. Okay. It's not anything new and I don't care. Okay. At all. So I'm dead here. I felt way more dead going to those jobs, driving to those jobs, knowing that I had nothing to do. And I was potentially going to be fired for saying something smart. That's dead to me. I'm in a dead state. I'm alive now, with the way that I'm thinking. And so, because that's not life. Okay. And a lot of these conversations like yesterday, they were decent. And then they become dead. And then they remind me of all those other moments of being dead. Okay. With Mike yesterday, because it was academic. And then all of a sudden it got stupid. Okay. With his comments related to Job 9:24 not being a law. And then they play dumb. Okay. And then he's just a troll basically. And so, that's my position. Okay. That's my quote unquote life story for the last, whatever, like 8 years or so. And, that's where it is, and so I've experimented. I've opened the door, looked in. Hey, what's going on here? Don't like that. Close the door, go to the next one, open the door, look in. And then I just, that's it. Okay. And so, the same thing is true with the Bible. Okay. This is the point that I wanted to make. I'm doing the same thing with the Bible. I'm opening the door. And what does Christ say when a person does that? So this is what's happening, for me, and then you can maybe relate to this, anybody listening in your own way. I'm not going to go into the Bible too deep because I'm wearing a hat, but I just wanted this to be a more like informal, summary, I guess, a brain dump. Revelation 3:20, behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I'll come into him and I'll sup with him and he with me. Revelation 3:20, 23, 33, talking about the last days. And so, that's what I've done. Okay. And so we're knocking on the door. Okay. And then Christ is saying that he actually is the one that knocks. And that's true because he chooses people. But from my analogy, I'm looking in the door. Okay. I've opened the door and the Bible's there as it's written, the Old Testament and New Testament. And so I studied it. Okay. I consumed it. This is what the Bible says. You got to eat the whole roll. Okay. And it may be sweet in your mouth, but it's going to be bitter in your belly. Okay. And you have to read Revelation to understand that reference. But that's what I did. Okay. I believe that reference is also in Ezekiel. And so this again shows the parallelism between the Bible in the Old and the New Testament. Ezekiel 3:3 is again talking about the last days. And so, it's amazing. It's just absolutely fascinating, the parallelisms between the Old and the New Testament. Ezekiel 3:3, and he said unto me, Son of man, cause thy belly to eat and fill thy bowels with this roll that I give thee. Then I did eat it, and it was in my mouth as honey for sweetness. Okay. And then John the Revelator is told that exact same language in Revelation, which again shows the consistency between the two testaments. It's talking about here the little book. Okay, it's talking about the book of Revelation. Verse 9, Revelation 10:9, and I went unto the angel and said unto him, give me the little book. And he said unto me, take it and eat it up, and it shall make thy belly bitter, but it shall be in thy mouth sweet as honey. Okay. And I took the little book out of the angel's hand and ate it up, and it was in my mouth as sweet as honey. And as soon as I had eaten it, my belly was bitter. And he said unto me, thou must prophesy again before many peoples and nations and tongues and kings, which proves reincarnation. So he has to be here in the last days. And so that's what I did. Okay. And so the Bible was a door that, metaphorically was open. And then I sat down and read it, and then studied it, and then went amongst the other scholars of it. And I enjoy the scholarly debate, and, if it ends up not being the word of God or partially the word of God or whatever people think that it is, it was an interesting journey. It was a fascinating study, okay, of a book. Okay. And I treat that book like any other book that I've read in my life. I want to understand it. I want to know, how does that apply to my reality, and how can I use the sayings in this book to improve my life and maybe the people around me, and so that's what I did. Okay. And that's what has been done, I would say, at this point. And so now we're just waiting to see, does it play out? Okay. And so, we see it happening, very, very clearly. And so, again, this is why this has nothing to do with Mike's conversation per se, just to clarify my vantage point. But we know Mike's an actor because he clearly sees that the Bible, the New Testament, is coming true. But that's his role to play, which he got the role a couple of weeks ago, I guess, or whatever, which is stupid. But the reason I wanted to talk about this is that even if the things in the Bible are like inconsistent or it ends up being false, let's just say that, quote unquote, worst case scenario, the Bible is not true, the New Testament or the Old Testament's not true, or whatever, it's an interesting pursuit, okay, from an academic perspective, which has been the only real claim that I've made throughout this whole time, is that it's it's to study it, and to understand it, and to really, for someone to believe in it and to wait for it to come to pass, you have to understand what it says. Okay. And so hopefully my channel has made that clear, what it says. We know what it says now. Okay. We all know there's no debating what it's saying. You can debate that it's not true or it's not going to happen or whatever. Or, you, like Mike would say, that there's not going to happen because there's inconsistencies between these two books and all that. So he's not expecting those things to happen in that way. Okay. But there's no doubt what it says. Okay. And that's what I've made clear. And I'm not taking credit for it. If that's clearly what God wants us to wait for, the way that I've explained it with the sequence. So now we just wait and see. Okay. And so what I'm thankful for, though, is that without the Bible not existing, what would I have done in that time in my mind from, about the time, well, actually, I would say all those times that I was collecting unemployment, what would I have done to quote unquote, entertain myself? Well, if the Bible didn't exist, I first of all could have got into a very, very deep and dark place. Cause I was like, well, I don't even have anything to do or any hope or anything like that, or anything to learn. And so if I'm living in New York, I may go out and be a New Yorker, and go out and, get involved in different drugs and do different things and live the nightlife and party and just get involved in all kinds of evil. Okay. And then who knows, where it could have gone. And so that aspect of the Bible being there, baiting me back with the flat earth, has been not that I'm inclined to do those things, but, I'm just for maybe how it could relate to other people's story. It's like, it gave me something very scholarly to pursue, and then to study. And I'm very thankful for that. And so, but that study is complete now, and so I'm aware of the fact that there are things in the Bible that are what the world would say are inconsistencies. And so I'm aware of that. And I have a bigger inconsistency than any of the inconsistencies Mike or anybody could ever on YouTube or anything, anybody could ever tell me. The biggest inconsistency that I see now, somebody who's studied the Bible on a deep level, is that there's a group that is said to be so pure that they will die before they break God's laws. Okay. That's what the Bible teaches. And there's not just one of them. The Bible says there's 144,000 of them. And that's why that fervor that was being built up yesterday, somebody who's pretending like Mike, he's an actor, but masquerading around as one of those people, the righteous. Okay. And then we bring up Job 9:24, and then it was just like the music stopped. Okay. And I was like, it's definitely no one here. And again, I already knew that it's not him because he's an actor, but I was like, it was another confirmation that, it's not him, and then it's not anybody that I've come across. Okay. And that's not to minimize a person's faith, but it's to challenge you and to challenge me, because that's what the Bible says. And I know that. Why? Because I've read it myself. Okay. That's what the Bible says. And you cannot make an argument against that. And so now the question is, do those people exist? And then my question is like, if they do, how come one of them has not threatened God, quote unquote, threatened God to take his own life already with the madness that we see going on in the world? How has not one of them said it's enough? I don't care what my family says or what's going on. I'm not doing that. I'm out of here. And so that's the biggest contradiction in the Bible. Okay. And so we can't throw the Bible out yet. Okay. We have to give them time. Okay. But in my opinion, if that event of salvation does not happen soon, that group is not that quality. Okay. They are not a quality people. And so there's no little contradiction of this verse and that verse and none of that, there is no, that doesn't matter to me. That's a low level issue that can be, clarified, or just God wanted that there, because again, God wanted people to read the Bible and to think that it's absurd, and ludicrous. And so he's giving people like Mike and other people reasons to not believe it. Okay. And so some people don't believe it because they want to stay here. They want to be here for another 5 or 10 or 15 years. So they're not going to pick up the Bible and be like, oh, there's an end times and God cares about the righteousness and laws. And it's like, I don't want to read that. Okay. So there's a lot of different reasons why people will reject the Bible, the New Testament, Old Testament, Apocrypha, and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not worried about that, that those things kind of exist. The biggest contradiction that I've noticed, and now is the elephant in the room, is the God of the Bible states there's a group that he loves, and he focuses his love on that group, 144,000 men. And they're going to be the type that will die before they break God's laws. And so that's the challenge to all of us. If we want to receive some benefits, that's the people that God loves. And is that you and is that me? And so I had to take my name out of the hat for that last year, because I realized that wasn't me. Okay. And so that's the biggest contradiction. And that contradiction is not going away. It's intensifying every day. And so all those little things that Mike would bring up, or anybody would bring up with these two accounts and all that kind of stuff, that's minor compared to this contradiction, because this is one that has to be demonstrated. Okay. And the Bible says the tested quality of God's elect is going to be made manifest. And so during this time of reading and understanding the Bible, and then looking around my surroundings, using the Bible to then influence, my ability to see the world and see what's going on, I haven't found people like that. Okay. I have not. And so now the question everybody should ask themselves is, where are they? And so that's to be seen. And but every day that goes by, the contradiction gets more and more. They're reinstituting mandates, reinstituting this and this and this. It's like, well, where are the elect? 2 Ezra 16:73. Then the tested quality of my elect shall be made manifest like gold that is tested by fire. And so how come we have atheists and people of even a lower vibration complaining about this narrative, but for some reason all the religious people like End Times Teacher and Mike and all these people are like, no, it's not a sin. No, don't worry about it. And all like, why is that? Okay. And so that's the biggest contradiction. And so that's where we stand right now, all of us, whether you like it or not. The Bible is presenting to us a contradiction. That's a major one. And so now we're going to see if God's going to reconcile that contradiction. And so we'll see, and, if he doesn't return, then we can be assured that he doesn't exist. And more importantly, if he doesn't return soon, we can be assured that this group is not of high quality. Okay. Because then they're acquiescers like Mike is, and End Times Teacher, and the people that even religious people that come by my channel, and even myself, which is what I stated at the end of last year. So we'll see. That's what I'm waiting for now. And I got my popcorn out and I'm watching just like everybody else is, but I'm only going to be watching for another 45 days or so because I find this earth incredibly boring. Okay. And now it's becoming more and more evil. And so it's one thing if it's boring and you're just bored. Okay. Like whatever, like, okay, that's one thing. But now it's becoming very, very unsafe because the truthers like Mike and all these other Satanists, they're the type who will like slander you and like, if you start actually bringing out certain truths. And I'm very aware of that. Okay. So this is a moron who claims that he's like bringing out the law, but he takes my picture and sends it to like a prostitute or something like that. And then these morons want us to like think that they're righteous or something like that. Okay. And so these are disgusting people. Okay. And a majority of you people that come by my channel, you're disgusting too. Okay. And so not the few people that actually care about what the Bible says, but I'm aware of the fact that a majority of people on this earth are absolutely disgusting, vile people. Okay. And so if I'm bored and I'm around a majority of vile people, I don't want to be here. Okay. There's nothing, I'm not going to miss this place or anything like that. It's not a big issue. It's just making it more and more obvious that I'm not welcome here. Okay. And I'm fine with that. Okay. I don't want to be here. Okay. So it's like, I'm not complaining because like, again, this is a long standing thing, 6, 7, 8, 9 years, more than that. So that's my situation, just to clarify. Okay. And so, no, I'm not like wearing an EMF hoodie and like setting up, some campground here and obeying the law, which is basically Mike just doing drugs and just going on YouTube to talk about nothing, be around a bunch of other degenerates like him. No, hell no. Okay. What the hell is that? Okay. I don't want to be around a bunch of degenerates. I've already done that for a bunch of years. Okay. And no, the only thing that I'm thankful for in the last 4 or 5 or 6 years is to have something that was interesting to pursue, which was the Holy Bible, and then to read and to be able to play golf for leisure when I'm not doing that. And that's what I'm thankful for. I ate the whole roll. Okay. And it was sweet, but now it's bitter in my belly because I look around and I'm like, where's the righteousness? Okay. Where is that? Okay. And then people want to come by here and say, oh no, why don't you like align yourself with these other evil people? Why are you so mean to them? Well, I'm like, they haven't ate the whole roll. They don't understand what the Bible says. And so I want to separate myself from them while I study this book. Okay. And then those are people like Jack Burton and the other Satanists that come by my channel. And so that's, again, further evidence that I need to be separated from this place. Okay. Because it's incredibly boring and it's incredibly evil. And if that's not your situation, then, I wish you the best of luck. I'm not going to be angry or whatever. I'm like, hey, well, go, you found something productive to do or whatever, and you have found a safe place to be. I'm not going to be mad or jealous or whatever. I'm like, yeah, that's great. Go do what you're doing, be productive and, be safe, which is what I want for everybody, which is what I believe the kingdom will be. Okay. It's going to be an intellectually stimulating place, and it's going to be a safe place. Okay. And so even if that never happens, I'm like, that's something nice to think about, because wouldn't that be great to have that here? Wouldn't that be great? Wow. Where I can be stimulated. Imagine driving to your job every day. Oh man, I cannot wait to get to work so I can collaborate with these people and we can build something and then, give God glory and give him credit for it. Wouldn't that be amazing? Okay. And then you can like come home and then, watch your kids grow up, and then it'll be a safe place for them. They don't have to worry about, oh, you got a phone call, your kid was, raped and a pedophile did something to your kid or whatever. Every parent lives with that fear every day, and that can happen. Okay. And so imagine if we didn't have to worry about that. Okay. And so that's what the Bible has given me the ability to imagine, in the last many, many years, and so if that doesn't happen, then it doesn't happen. I can't create a kingdom. I can't bring something from heaven and make, the earth, prosper and, give people, things to do. And I don't have that ability. Okay. I wish I did. I would have done it already. Okay. But this God says that he does. He does have that ability. Okay. And he says that kingdom, the quality of it is actually governed by his elect. Like I just read earlier, the tested quality of my elect shall be made manifest. And so if that group is not high quality, then what kind of kingdom are we talking about? Because that's the kingdom that's coming down, this holy city from Jerusalem. So then we have a low quality kingdom. Okay. So the biggest contradiction, let me remind people, and I haven't seen it not to be rude, around here, okay, is that the 144,000, let me remind people, are the type of men who will die before they break God's laws happily. Okay. And so where are they is what I ask people. Is that exist in you? Okay. If you come here and try and teach me something, you have to be of that quality. Okay. Because that's what I'm looking for. And Bible Defender said it best. We're looking for the purest souls. That's true. That's what I'm looking for. Even in a moment, I was caught up in that discussion with Mike. I was like, wow, this is a pure pursuit. If it was genuine, which we know that it's not, but this is a pure pursuit. If you want to pursue God's laws fully, that's a righteous thing. Okay. If that God exists, that's what he would want. So I was like, that's great. And then you realize this person is just a complete joke. Okay. Again, it's like, again, we've seen that already, but that's a good thing. You know, that's what a person who is genuinely about this God would be all about. Okay. And so we need people like that. Okay. Or else the kingdom is going to be an awful place. It's going to be this again. You're going to be bored and you're going to be unsafe if you're there. Let's say I'm not there, but you're there. If this group is not, the tested quality of my elect shall be made manifest. Okay. And so that's what I want people to understand is going on. So I'm winning either way, because either way, nothing has changed. Okay. That's my point. Okay. It's not going to change anything. If the Bible's true, it's going to become even more unsafe. It's still going to be boring. It's just going to become more and more unsafe. That's what it promises. If the Bible is not true, then it's still boring, because now the one thing that I found intellectually stimulating, that's not true. Okay. So I'm like, well, there's definitely nothing to do here. Okay. Without a doubt, there's nothing to do here. So it's still going to be boring. It's going to be more boring. And then the likelihood that evil is not going to intensify at this point is basically zero. So there's still very likely more and more evil coming. It just may be a little bit slower. It may not be like from God, with the angels and the wrath and all that, the swords and all that. It'll decay, but maybe a little bit slower. Or you might be able to squeeze a little bit more out of it. And so, but I'm like, I've already squeezed it. Okay. And this is like an analogy, but I'm like, I don't want it. Okay. It's like, they've already squeezed me too. They squeezed me out. Okay. They said, you're not welcome here. And much less all the stuff that's going on now. They're like, you're definitely not welcome here. Okay. Cause I'll just make fun of anybody. If I was in like a corporate environment now, I would be a menace. I would be literally making fun of everybody. You're stupid. What the hell's wrong with you idiots and stuff like that. So, and if they asked me to wear that thing for like the whole day, I would walk out that day. I'll be like, hell no, I'm not wearing that. I'll wear it, in a car or like for a minute or two, whatever. Like I'm not in control of that. Okay. But no, I would not wear that for an entire day or anything like that. So it's just a practical thing, and then the same issue that I had back when my neck I had a bulging disc in my neck. If I had one medical thing, then I wouldn't be able to afford it in that time. Okay. And the same thing now. And I'm not trying to get pity, but if something happens, even like a broken leg or broken arm or something like that, like, I wouldn't be able to afford that. So, and I'm definitely not going to, lean on the medical system or anything like that. So this is, again, I'm just giving people the background for my channel, just so the full story, that the Bible is a subset, even though it's a majority of the things that I teach, it's a subset of who I am, as a person. Okay. And so it was in between me and an already shortened, abbreviated life. Okay. It got in the way and it made it bearable. Okay. And then connecting and fellowshipping with a few people that come by my channel that is genuine, that made it tolerable. Okay. And some of the conversations were interesting. Okay. And then I learned, different things. And so that's the part that, I'm thankful for. The Bible got in the way in between. This is where spiritually, we would believe that God was the one who ordained it. Like we read, God's knocking. Okay. And so he needed to knock during the time when I was receptive to it, when I wasn't stimulated. Okay. When I had time for him and I didn't have to go to a job and give somebody else some competing interest and stuff like that. So I believe that he knocked at the right moment. Okay. And then you have to evaluate, what's God saying to you? Okay. Personally, in the times that we live in now, what is he telling you? And he's telling me my life is not going to be much longer. Okay. And I'm comfortable with that. I'm totally fine with that. And so I just think other people out there, you just got to find out what's God telling you. and that kind of thing. So, I can't say that my journey is meant for anybody else or anything like that. It's very unique, but, I do think that there'll be some similarities. So that's the deal. Okay. That's my answer. If there wasn't like anybody needed one, but just to kind of give my response to like, it just not what he brought up, but just in general, because people will bring contradictions to the Bible, and then that's not a new thing. But, you'll have people around you who'll be like, yeah, whatever. There's no way, like, there's no way the Bible is true and like stuff like that. And we'll say that sometimes too, like, how could God put swords and burn billions of people? You know what I mean? Like, how is he going to do that? Like, why is he going to do that and stuff like that? So we have our own doubts, but, for me personally, the learning it and studying it has been incredibly, interesting intellectually. And so, it's fascinating, the patterns, the structure of it, the numbers. And then when I get people who come by and say, oh no, that's stupid and all that, well, then that puts me around a stupid person with a low vibration. And that's why I get angry at people. I'm like, well, what are you interested in? Okay. What do you find interesting? Okay. It's like, well, what do you find fascinating or whatever? It's like, oh, we're going to beat white people over the head. Well, I'm like, I don't find that interesting. I don't find that to be an academic thing that I want to study. If that's truly what the Bible says, I would never read it. Because why would I want to be in a place where that was the ambition of that God, is to like beat people over the head in a kingdom or something like that? I'll be like, I would never have read the Bible. I would have had to find another religion or something else, but that's not what the Bible says, even though that's what evil people teach that the Bible says. Okay. And so we know exactly what's going on now. Okay. At the end of the day, a majority of people on this earth are not going to benefit from the Bible being true. And that may be me as well. Okay. I say that freely, regularly. That could be me as well. But it's very, very clear that very, 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 very few people are going to benefit from the Bible being the word of God. Okay. And sad news for a lot of you come by my channel, is not for you. Okay. And so again, except for the few people that are genuine, it's not for you. Okay. I have 8 people watching right now. I guarantee you it's bad news for quite a few of you. Okay. Because you would rather read it and then impose your own ideas on it instead of letting it speak to you. Okay. Which is what we're supposed to do. Okay. And so that's the situation that I'm in. And I do believe that it spoke to me, but that's just part of the story. That doesn't mean that it's going to happen or that it benefits me. That's we have to see. But just from my vantage point, again, people kind of know my timeline. I'm comfortable, like I'm not bitter or like, whatever, like, feel like I got ripped off or anything like that. It would not be consistent with my life, to go further into this system and to want to be here for more than today, because I don't find it interesting, much less the fact that going further into this place may require me to sin, and it will require me to sin. So I'm like, I wouldn't do it anyway, because I don't want to be here. So it's, and that's not because the Bible said that, because I was already in that state prior to reading the Bible again on a deeper level. So that's the situation. So, if it's not true, then we may know some of the reasons why that it's not, because there is no elect on this earth. There are not 144,000 men who will care about God's laws to the utmost. And then he's like, he doesn't have to return. Then he's like, well, where are they? Okay. Because they all don't care. Okay. And then, then we'll know, and then God's laws don't exist, because then he won't judge according to his laws. And so that's the part that we're going to have to wait and see. Does God's law still exist with him in his mind and in his son? And then does it exist in that 144,000? And so it clearly doesn't exist in Mike, because he's just a terrible actor masquerading around as a religious person, which is a lot of you that come by my channel. So, and you could even argue was me, but me personally, I'm not going to be in a kingdom or get excited or look forward to a kingdom that's run by people who are a bunch of acquiescers. I'll meet you halfwayers and stuff like that. Oh no, that's not a sin. And like, who make up stories, just nonsense, and don't understand the true spirit of the Bible. I'm not going to be in the kingdom with them, and I'm definitely not going to report to those people because I've already had all these other experiences reporting to people that would punish me for being intelligent. Okay. And trying to look after other people and care for the company and all that kind of stuff. If I go to the kingdom and I care for other people and try and be smart, and then people fire me or beat me over the head, I'll be like, this is the same as over there outside of the kingdom. Like, why is that happening here in the kingdom? And so I'm not reporting to a bunch of barbarians, and people that do this or put it on their chin or whatever the hell that Mike was saying. No, hell no. And so I'm only going to report to this group of people, in Second Esdras. And that's the only people you should report to too, or be this way yourself. And so don't compromise. Okay. Me, at this point, that's why, my time here is basically running out, because I don't want to report to anybody here on earth unless they're this quality. Okay. Second Ezra 7:88 to 89. Now, this is the order of those who have kept the ways of the Most High when they shall be separated from their mortal body. So they did it in the body. During the time that they lived in it, they laboriously served the Most High and withstood danger every hour so that they might keep the law of the lawgiver perfectly. Okay. And so this is an incredibly stubborn group of people. This type of person would be completely obnoxious to the world. They'd be like, why are you making me do that? Why? I don't want to do that. No, hell no. And so what kind of parents would these people have? They'll kick them out. Okay. These would be the most obnoxious people to this world that you could ever imagine. Because anything that goes against God's laws, they'll be like, no, well, kill me before I do that. I'll die. And that's the attitude that they would have. And so we have some of that in us, but that's the group that is going to be the leaders in the kingdom. Okay. And so we have to model that behavior if we want to expect anything from this God. And so that's the biggest, most glaring contradiction of the Bible. And that contradiction is growing every single day because the evil is growing every single day. And so now my question is to the universe, I guess, where are those men? And so we'll see. But that's all I had for this stream. That's the backstory. And so I'm not worried, or whatever, like if it's true or not true, or what if this happens or doesn't happen or whatever. It's like I'm seeking intellectual stimulation. I'm not finding it here, and that door is completely closed everywhere I look. And I think everybody's seeing that too. So it's not anything new. And if another God or a God or the God of the Israelites cannot provide that for me, then it's okay. Then there's nothing else better. Okay. There's no learning or, collaborating and righteousness and law. There's none of that. Okay. Well, that's what it is. Okay. I can't make a kingdom, or I can't make a project to work on and do things and be creative and all. I can't do that. I can't even do that here, much less like bringing a kingdom down. So that's the situation that I'm in. It's very rational. It's very logical, and it's very practical, and so, we'll see, what's going to happen and how it plays out. But, at this point, I would just say in general, the likelihood of the New Testament not being inspired by God, the God who made this, I would say is like, I don't even know how somebody could even think that it's basically 100%. Again, there's still a lot of things that need to happen, but the likelihood of the God of the Bible, the whole Bible, not being the architect and the narrator of this movie, I mean, I don't even know what to say. Like, again, we can't prove it. Even Christ cannot prove that the Bible's true because he doesn't know the timing of his own return. So it's up to the Most High. And, but again, this is not to like diminish people's faith, but I would say it's essentially, it's true. It's just the question is now, when are those things going to happen? And, how is it going to look? What is the implementation of those things going to look like? And so there's a little bit of wiggle room for that, but I would say not that much in terms of the timeline because it involves God's elect. Good to see everybody here. Just give a quick shout out to the people that came by. Bible Defender, trusting only in the Most High. Good to see you. Jason Mull, corporate world values sacrifice of personal time rather than efficiency. I can see why you were punished by their backward value system. So from a spiritual perspective, the way that I understand this now, God is in a hurry. Okay. He needed to build up this beast system quickly. And then that's why he always had deadlines. Do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, because God is in a hurry. Satan has but little time, but God is giving him a deadline. Get this done, which is build up all these empires because he's going to destroy them. And so that's God is behind that. And I know that now, if the Bible's true, okay, if the Bible narrative is true of the beast system and all that. So their backwards values, God gave them that to give them a time limit. Hurry, build up all these buildings, build up all those spaceships, build up all those missiles, build up all those tanks, build them, get them up, because then he's going to come and destroy them. So I didn't understand that, at the beginning, but if the Bible's true, I certainly know that now. Bible defenders like life is boring. Yes, correct. Agree with you. Creation Bear, I never went to university. Yeah, I saw that Rice reinstituted this mandate, so I'm going to be happy when I throw my Rice degree in the garbage, in a couple of weeks. So the university system is a complete scam. It's a total scam. Okay. And it's not about learning. They say it's higher learning. Okay, it's not. What's higher learning? It's about God. If you're going to higher learning, you should learn about the Most High. Well, how are any of these schools higher learning? It's lower learning, which is the earth, which is hell. So the name is a misnomer. Okay, it's false advertising. There's no such thing as higher learning on this earth. In the kingdom, there'll be higher learning, which is what? The Most High. So you learn about the highest, and he will dwell with man through his son. So we hope for that in that day, and that we could be a part of that. And shout out Galapagos, or as LOP would say, Galapagos. Dragon Kujali, wages of sin is death. That's correct. And so that's why the only group that's ultimately exempt from death is what? Is the elect. And so why do they not have to die? Because Christ died. And so that doesn't mean that the forgiveness of sin is not available to other people, the mixed multitude, but they're going to have to die. Okay. They have to for their sins. Like you just said, wages of sin is death, but Christ died for the elect because he's going to raise them up on the last day. And so they're the only ones who have their sin forgiven. And so because they take his sacrifice, he imputes that righteousness onto them. And then he stands before the Most High and says, these guys and women are with me. Okay. And so again, that doesn't mean that God doesn't care about us if we're in the mixed multitude, but that's why the wages of sin is death applies to every single person. And so, the only reason that the elect do not die in the last days is because Christ died for them. Okay. He died for a very, very small group of people, and the Bible numbers them. Ultimately, it's the 144,000 in Revelation 7. Okay. And, peace to them wherever they are. We hope that they exist. We're wondering where they are. Trusting in the Most High. This was a good stream. Peace and bless. Yeah. Good to see you again. I know that I'm nasty with people, but for the few people that come by, like the Trusting in the Most High, Creation Bear, Galapagos, Bible defenders coming around on some doctrine, but the people that are, aware of what's going on, understand what the mark is and the flat earth and the hell and what's the real essence of the Bible. I appreciate Rebel too when he comes on. Shout out Rebel. But, I don't want to make fun of you. It's just I want to make sure that the other people go away. Okay. And know that I'm not aligning with them ever. Okay. So if you don't know what the mark of the beast is now, then I don't align with you. I think you're a Satanist. Okay. And so it's not a wait and see. It's either that is the mark of the beast or the Bible is not true. The whole thing, Revelation, New Testament, Old Testament, Apocrypha, everything. It's all stupid to me. And so this has to be it, like Trusting in the Most High saying. We use that phrase all the time, and it's a perfect phrase because if it's not it, then the Bible's not it. Okay. So, we'll see, if it is true. And the only way it's going to be proven to be true is if Christ returns. Okay. Because only when that event happens is the Bible true. Okay. Because that's what it says, and not just in Revelation, of course, but uh, we'll wait and see. But I think people know my time frame. Again, I'm not trying to get pity. I know people are dying every day. It's not like a new thing, but I'm not scared or uncomfortable or anything. Like it's what it is. If God doesn't come here, then I go to Him. Hope everyone's doing well. Take